I don't know if you've noticed lately, but I've seen an increasing number of people online that in their bio on Instagram, for example, they note that they are a 6-1 something in human design, right? If you haven't noticed it, you probably won't be able to miss it once you've seen this episode. Join me this week as I sit down with the incredible Jo Visser and we take a look at what human design is, what kind of perspective and gifts it can offer you in terms of how you motivate, how you live your life, and all of that chatter inside of your head. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am honored to once again be joined by Jo Visser. Welcome to the show, Jo. Jo was with us a few episodes ago, and Jo and I had so much to talk about that I was like, oh, will you come back and join me? And she graciously said she would. So if you did not listen to our episode about meaningful menopause, I would highly recommend you go back and check out that episode. One of the things that came up in our beautiful conversation offline before we recorded the last episode is her work with human design. And there are so many people that are starting to like put in their Instagram bio, like human design, 6-1, like, that type of thing. And there are a lot of people that I work with that have been asking questions like, what is human design? Why is it important to me? And I was like, oh, I have the perfect person to bring on to the show to talk about it. So welcome, Jo. And I would love if you would share a little bit about yourself for anybody who isn't familiar. And then we'll jump right into talking about what is human design.
Great. Thanks, Adrienne. It's very happy to be back. We just always have such a blast. We get lost in our conversations together, and it's just like, oh, more, please.
Absolutely.
So I'm Jo. Background, I have a background in nursing, obviously from a million years ago. My interest in nursing is because I want to be a midwife, because I've always been interested in women's reproductive health. Thus, I'm, the other end of the arc. I'm interested in women's reproductive health in terms of menopause and healthy aging. I also was a teacher for many years. I suppose I've constantly been wanting to reinvent myself. And through my years of teaching, I ended up doing coaching. First of all, through the Coaches Training Institute. They're now known as the Co-Active Training Institute. I did my coaching program with them. And, one thing just evolved into another. And I did something called Rockstar Camp back in 2020 with Megan Jo Wilson, who is a CTI coach who also works with women's groups. And I met Robin Wynn. And Robin Wynn has been a human design practitioner and a teacher and transmitter of human design for the last 20 some years, I suppose. And I always knew, like when Robin introduced me to my own human design, I felt totally vindicated and liberated. And it was like, aha, of course, this makes so much sense. And because I've always been interested in that self-exploration and learning more and who are we and what's it all about and what's that search, human design, when Robin introduced me to it, was such a natural fit for me in terms of as an educator, working with students, as a coach, working with groups of people, certainly as a menopause support coach, like what is it as we look at what's our next chapter and how can our human design inform us and support us And so I remember saying to Robin, I always know I'll study with you at some point, Robin. And so in 2022, I jumped into the deep end with Robin and became a human design consultant. And then I continued my studies with Robin, and I'm now a human design practitioner. And I'm part of this community called Awakening Through Human Design. So if you're looking for some really wonderful human design practitioners and a teacher, has been through Robin Wynn's program. And so, there's different students of Ra was the initial founder, if you wish, of teacher of human design. And then there've been just different generations. And so it's been, Ra, and then I'm going to draw a blank right now, Karen Curry Parker, who was Robin's teacher. And then, so I have that kind of transmission through Robin, through those different generations. And so for me, as I said, as an educator, as a coach, human design is such a beautiful way for people to have a greater understanding and appreciation of who they are, what their challenges are, what their gifts are, how they relate to the world, how best to make decisions, what we need to know about ourselves and others within our relationships. It's a beautiful roadmap. It's actually a quantum physical roadmap. So it's highly esoteric and it's also highly practical. So I love it. I say it's where the science and the woo meet.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, very much. And it's quite uncanny. Like when people see their human design, it's very uncanny as they start to explore with a practitioner or a consultant, more doors start opening up and they feel seen. And they may feel seen and heard for the first time in their life as they get a greater understanding of who they are in terms of their human design.
Oh, I love that. Yes, I can absolutely vouch for the fact that when I was introduced to human design, and I'm very much a novice in this area, which is why I brought Jo onto the show, but being introduced to my human design was a huge aha moment for me. And it really confirmed for me that certain patterns in my life were not me being lazy or me being antisocial or me
Right.
being, this, that, or the other thing where you could like give it a negative label. And it like opened a whole new world to me of, oh, no, this is just who you are.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yes. And actually, it's really interesting in terms of awakening through human design. There's this wonderful kind of slight twist with Robin as well with Polly. Yes, it's who we are. And it's that other thing to not completely identify in terms of it's what I have, it's my operating system, it's my owner's manual. And so it's that lovely kind of differentiation, who I am, what I have at my disposal. Like, this is my operating system.
Yes, that's a beautiful way to word it. I'll use myself as an example to illustrate what you're talking about. So I spent many years thinking there was something quote unquote wrong with me because I did not have tons of stamina for lots of bustling social schedule. When I worked in an externally facing job where there was like events we had to go to and attend and network and socialize. And I had to network in, like your BNI and chamber type networking sessions and stuff like that as part of that job or those jobs that I held at that particular juncture in my life. And I was a young woman. I was in my like early 20s, right? So, at the zenith of like, I can do whatever and sleep for 4 hours and get up and I can still like do the things the next day, right? At least that's what all my friends were doing at that particular point in time. I could not hang. I've never been able to hang, but that was part of it, is I was never able to hang. right?
Yeah.
So I would work the event and then I would feel like a truck ran me over for 3 solid days afterwards. It was always 3 days. And I'm like, wow, like that just took so much out of me. And I used to think that there was something wrong with me because maybe I'm sick, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that, right? And I was always trying to intellectualize it and explain away why my young 20s something could not handle lots of energy output in this particular way.
Yes.
And that working, I could grind if I set my mind to it. But I did better on the days where I had that kind of intense output for a few hours in the morning. And then I had to go set up a room, but I could do that without talking it to anybody, So I was still like doing things. It wasn't that I was sitting on the couch eating bonbons or anything, but like there was only like a limit to my
Yes.
ability to people
Yes.
is how I would word
Yes.
it.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I always thought that there was some sort of defect in my programming because I really struggled with that. So when I started learning about my human design, and again, I'm very much a novice, I'm very new to this world, but it was so eye-opening for me to learn that I am a projector. And I'm actually going to have you talk about
Yes.
manifesting
Types.
generators and all of those different types as we go through here. But I learned that I was a projector. And when somebody read to me the description of a projector, all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is why I can be intensely productive in a short period of time, but I have to have space for creativity to drop in, to be able to pace myself so that I don't burn out.
Yeah.
Because my coping mechanism was to just push and push and
Yes.
push and push because that's what the world demanded of me.
Exactly. Yes. The coping mechanism and the conditioning.
Yeah. And I made myself so sick.
Yes.
All the time. Like I could only push to a point. Even when I was a kid, my mom used to notice that between school break and school break, like Christmas and February break, for example, I would push and push. And then I was laid out sick the entire February break week. And I would be healthy and go back to school and I would push and push and push. And then we would hit April break.
Yes.
And I was on the couch sick again. And it was like that from middle school on. I was that way in college. I would work on my master's degree and I would literally walk into my finals sick as a dog. And I would spend like 2 weeks dead on the couch before I would start to feel human. I would have 1 week of actual break where I could like people and stuff. And then I was back at school again. So like I could push, but those intense periods, they had to be limited. And if I went beyond my capacity, I always got sick.
Yeah.
So learning that I was a projector was this big, kind of moment for me because I'm like, wow, it's because my body's not actually built to do it like that.
That your design, if you wish, your quantum roadmap is not designed. You are actually designed for rest. 20% of the population are projectors. 70% of the population are generator types, either manifesting generators or generators. And those of us who have that defined sacral center in our design is what makes us generator types. And we're like little energizer bunnies because that's defined sacral center is the 24/7 go. It's on. It's sustained energy 24/7.
That's my husband.
As a projector, you don't have that. We say your sacral center is open. It's not defined. And so, if that is open, you're not designed to go. Like as a manifesting generator, I can go. Like I get up in the morning and I go, even if I have a shitty night's sleep, I'm still full of energy the next morning. And that's just how I go. It is the Energizer Bunny energy. But as a projector, because you don't have that, like you're designed to rest. You work strategically to rest. As a manifesting generator, I rest so I can just keep going, So,
Yes.
and the thing about, if you're thinking 70% of the world has this sacral center it's in the belly area, actually, right? Lower belly. And if 70% of the world has this sacral center defined, and that sacral center goes, yeah or no, it goes, or and it goes.
Mm.
So 70% of the world, if you wish, is setting the pace for
Yes.
everybody. Right. Right. And then we can also get into the conditioning of, post-industrial revolution, et cetera, how we're all supposed to be producing and going and going. It just gets absolutely ridiculous where we are now in terms of it's just manic going. There's a lot of conditioning. Everybody's supposed to be out there doing stuff. So when you have that center that is open, you can kind of, in a way, tether off of the energy of those around you who happen to be generator types. It's like you can tether for a while off of our sacral, defined sacral,
Yes.
and think it's your own energy. So you go only to realize that amount of energy is not yours. And so you crash and burn.
Yes.
You burn out, and you burn out hard.
Yep.
And you talked about being around people. It's really important. We talk about, wherever we're open, whether it's an emotional solar plexus, the spleen, the sacral center, et cetera, whatever is open, we take in that theme or that energy and we amplify it. So it's really important that you step out of the field. So as a projector or a manifester or a reflector, you need to be able to step out of the field and have that alone time to be in the presence of somebody, if it is quiet and like your husband, you also need to step out of that aura as well. It is actually suggested that projectors may do better in terms of preserving their energy if they sleep in a separate bed, particularly if their partner is a generator type. Because think of it, whatever is defined in our chart, and I should have suggested that we put up a chart so people can look and see what we're looking at. Whatever is defined, if it's open, we take it in and amplify it, right? So even whatever's defined, we are projecting 24/7. Like that is like whatever's defined is our out breath.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever is open is our in breath, and we take that in. So think if you have this open sacral center and you're around defined sacral centers, you are taking in everybody's out breath, thinking it's yours.
Yes.
Really, you need to remove yourself from the field.
Well, and in my chart, weirdly enough, I only have 2 defined centers.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I take everybody's out breath for almost everything, which makes me extra tired. And I'm a caves person. So that was another thing that was really eye-opening for me. And I'm using myself as an example so that we have like a concrete place to illustrate from. But one thing that you had mentioned was that I am a caves person. And I've really seen this caves aspect of myself during my postpartum.
Yes, because you have a line too, right? I think you've got the hermit. Yes.
Yeah.
So again, with human design, it's not just one thing. When you start looking at human design, it is a complex, multiple layer that is your operating system. So it's not just the fact that you have, that you're a projector and you need to rest, especially because you've got an open sacral center. You also have something called a line 2, which is known as the hermit. And the hermit also needs to hermit.
So I'm the epitome of a recluse, everybody who's listening. And I have seen tendrils of this in myself literally my entire life. I was never the big go out and party, rock on kind of person. I could do it once in a while if I had a good reason or something motivating me to go out, but I never sought out that kind of thing. I could stay home all the time and it would be fine. But I've seen it a lot in my postpartum journey where I've been very content to just work out of my room to stay in my room, like literally in my bedroom. And my husband goes, I would be climbing the walls right now. Like, I
Yes,
don't know how you stay in here all day. He's a
absolutely. Yeah.
shores person.
Yeah.
And so he likes to go out and do things. And actually, this is where it is a nice balance, is like he does get me out of the house because I am very content to be home. But it's just interesting because I've always leaned in these directions and thought myself to be a little on the antisocial side. And it wasn't that I didn't want to socialize with people. It's that I just had a limited bandwidth for it. And
Yeah,
when I reached critical
absolutely.
mass,
Yeah.
like people would think that I was being a
Yeah.
snot or whatever, because I'm just like, I can't hang anymore, guys. Like, I'm out. I do this when we go camping in the summertime. Like, some nights I absolutely love being around a fire with other people, but I have to have energy left from the day. If I'm gassed, I just want to hang out on my own deck, listening to the birds and watching the river move and just like minding my own business,
Yes.
because I get so depleted and empty. And that's where human design for me was so
Yes.
incredibly eye-opening, because I'm like,
Yes.
oh, this is me. Oh, I feel so
Yes.
seen right
Mm.
now.
Yes, and that's the beauty of it. And even if people have just a general understanding of what is their type, and there's 5 types. They're generators, manifesting generators. Your husband and I are manifesting generators. There are projectors, which is 20% of the population. There are manifestors, which are 8% of the population. And then there are reflectors, who every single center is open.
Oh,
And they are like 0.1% of the population. They're very special, very special. I'm saying they're very special because they're quite unique. No one type or one design is better than another. They're all unique. So you've got the 5 types, and within those 5 types, we have strategies that would work for us and support us to be on our own behalf and to be in alignment with who we are. So what's the strategy and what's your inner authority? So your type, your strategy, and your inner authority. If people have an understanding of just those 3 things, they can be a lot more on their own behalf. They can appreciate themselves more, and they can remain better in alignment. And then you layer on, okay, so your conscious sun is in this gate. And so it's quite complex, because human design does look at, in terms of quantum physics, it also, if you look at a chart, and I'm just kind of put it, this is what my chart looks like. Okay. It's a funky chart. That's known as your human design chart. And you can see it looks like operates like on a chakra system, if you wish. You've got planets here, unconscious and conscious. Where were the planets when you were born? Where were the planets 3 months before you were born? All that has an influence on your operating system. And then within those centers, there are all these little numbers, which are based on the hexagram of the I Ching, the 64. We call them gates in terms of human design. And all of that is this complex weaving in. But if you understand that as a projector, you don't have that pink square. Yours is open. 70% of us as generators or manifesting generators have it colored in pink. Okay.
Yeah.
That is that sustainable energy. As a projector, you don't have that. You're designed to rest, to be very strategic in how you're going to use your energy resources. The challenging thing for a projector, your strategy, to be in the world, you are best to wait to be seen and recognized and invited. Now, we live in a world that is conditioning of get it out there, get yourself out there, put yourself out there. What happens as a projector, especially, is that if you're trying to push your way in, you're not seen, you're not heard, and it could be seen as grating, annoying. Who the hell is that? What's that coming from? Or nothing at all. So your strategy is to wait to be recognized. However, what I have learned about projectors is when you are the invitation in how you are, like projectors are the wise cats in the room. There's a lot of wisdom there. And if you are in alignment, if you are doing for you, like that's really important as a projector, and it's counterintuitive, especially as a woman, especially as a mom or partner, to put yourself first and do what would give me pleasure. That is a wonderful guiding system for projector types. I mean, for any of us, but particularly for a projector, qu'est-ce qui goûte bon pour moi? What would taste good for me? What would give me pleasure? And when you keep your particles from out there and you bring them in here, again, this is for any of us, but as a projector, and you're doing your hermiting thing, your line 2, people kind of go, what's she doing? I want some of that. So it's kind of counterintuitive in the world that says you got to push yourself out there, for projectors to be seen and recognized and invited when you are doing for you, when you are being in alignment with yourself. That's when you become the invitation. That's when you're, particularly as the hermit, when you're hermiting away doing your thing, that's when your genius is recognized. So you've got a couple of things going on there, right?
And now a break from our conversation for a partnership message. You've been told to hustle, grind, wake up early, and do more. But here's the truth. Rest is the most productive thing you can do. And the right kind of rest starts with Sia Silk Sleep Mask, your new sleep sanctuary. I've tried so many sleep masks, and I thought I just had to deal with the discomfort of slipping straps and light still getting through. But then I found this one, and I'm never going back. Made of 100% mulberry silk, it's the only mask that creates total blackout with its comfortable, oversized eye cups that don't smush my lashes while feeling weightless on my face. My sleep, next level. This isn't just a sleep mask, it's an investment in your nervous system. Sia Silk is a women-owned small business committed to high quality and sustainable luxury. Check out the show notes for the link to grab yours and rest like you mean it. And now, back to the show.
And so, like, that's your strategy. And I can't remember, are you defined throat and identity center?
Yes.
Right. So, okay. So you don't have an emotional solar plexus defined that is an authority with inner authority. You don't have the sacral that's an inner authority. You don't have a spleen that's inner authority. You really are about, okay, what is your heart's desire? And it also helps you to talk about what it is your heart desires. That's a way for you to come to that place of decision making. We are never designed to make decisions from here, whether it's defined or not. This is a great place for rumination
in the
but
head.
It's not the place of decision making.
Oh, I love that. I talk to my clients about that all the time. Like, if you're letting your body speak for you, what is your body saying?
Yeah.
Because our ego mind is conditioned, right? But our body wisdom never lies.
No.
And when we take action and make decisions from this embodied place, I mean, think about like when something scares you or there's a threat, your body actually will take action before your brain catches up. So your body's way smarter, but we give so much authority and credit to this thing that sits on our shoulders and that our ego mind knows best. And we rationalize all of these things when actually our body is way smarter.
Absolutely. And it can be very subtle. And if you're looking at, within this quantum sphere, so for instance, I do have a defined sacral center. It is my inner authority. If I had a defined emotional solar plexus, that would be the first authority. I'm actually quite relieved that I don't have one. I don't know how people, especially if you've got the generator type, you've got the sacral center. So I am in the moment. I just get to respond. A generator type, we just get to dance with the universe. So as a generator type, I just get to be in response. My strategy is to be in response. I don't have to kind of make stuff up. I don't have to create stuff. In each moment, I get to be in response. And with my little sacral, I either get the or the And we can look and say, well, the world might be in a shit mess that it's in because 70% of the world is generator types, but we may be making a shit mess of it because we are saying to things we actually have an for.
Yes. And that happens a lot.
And that happens a lot. So it's really important because we want to make that, okay, is this a yes? Like, what do is it up here? Yes, no? When actually I really have to come down to that sacral center and go, in this moment, is this an or an And as generator or a manifesting generator type, if I'm getting tired and burned out, I am most likely saying to things I have an for.
Yep.
Or perhaps I'm saying to something I might have a for.
Yes.
So, if you as a projector are out of alignment, you may feel resentment or bitterness.
I feel seen.
That's thinking, how does that resonate for you, right? So, so if you're feeling bitter or resentful,
yep.
Chances are you're not honoring
that integrity. Yep.
Your integrity. When you are in alignment, in general, projectors have a sense of success.
Yes, very much.
Okay.
How does that translate as a reflector? Since they have even fewer centers than I do.
Well, reflectors, that is really special. I just like it. Let me just finish up with generator types, and then we'll look at reflector types. So if I have an or an that's my yes, no. So that's in the moment I'm dancing. If I, as a generator or a manifesting generator, fall into frustration, and I'll say it because manifester, I'm also part manifester and part generator. So I'll have the frustration of a generator. I might also have anger of a manifester. If I'm feeling frustrated or angry, I'm not in alignment. When I'm in alignment, I feel satisfaction. And it's really funny just talking about the subtlety of, for you, it's, I've just been busted. I've been seen. Yeah. Bitterness and resentment. Whereas I go, not familiar, but when I was told, well, what about frustration? Oh, I know frustration. And the alignment side for me is not so much success. It's satisfied, said with bone.
Yep.
So that means the very subtle shifts. So as I said, so you've got those kind of the three major, and then you've got manifestors and then a reflector. They might have these little rivers, these what we call hanging gates, but all of these would be completely white. Reflectors are extremely unique. I know very little about them other than they kind of hold up a mirror to us because, yes, I don't know that they take in and amplify the way, say, your sacral does or the way my open emotional solar plexus does, and we might feel bombarded.
Yep.
But they're like the moon. And they kind of reflect back, and they will reflect, they'll let you know the temperature of the water and the environment in terms of if they are thriving and doing well, they're in a good environment. If they're not thriving or doing so well, it's an indication that the environment that they're in, and perhaps that we are in, isn't so great. And in terms of their decision-making process, it's like, wait a lunar cycle before you make any major decisions.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
But they're very unique. As I said, I don't know enough about them. I've just through different people or online, like through Robin's course, somebody brought their dad, who was a reflector, and what was his experience. They're very unique. They're very rare. As I said, I think maybe 0.1% of the population or something like that.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, I feel that pull a lot of the rest of the world goes at one tempo and I go at another. And I can be very productive. It's not
Yeah.
that I'm not, but the hard part to communicate as a projector is that I'm not lazy.
Okay, exactly. Because the world will look at you, because God forbid that we are lazy. Now, because lazy is a big deal. Now, you also have, not only do you have a projector, but I can feel your pain, sister. This is the root center. Mine is also open. This is a pressure point. I call it the get up off your ass center. It pulses on or off, but it very much is that get up and go, do. And it does pulse on and pulse off. Those of us with an open root center can feel the pressure, gotta do. If somebody says the lawn needs to be mowed, I might register that as I'm being told I gotta mow the lawn. There is a constant pressure to do. And it really is. So there's a push, right? To do, right?
Yes.
And to producing, to literally not be on your ass, get up off your ass. And so with the open root, there can be a sense of I'm lazy because I'm not getting off my ass. There can be a sense of procrastination. So you've got that, plus you're a projector. You need your rest. You need to remove yourself from the field. So again, it's a lot of asking, is this mine to do? With your open sacral, is this energy actually mine? You also have the open emotional solar plexus. Are these emotions that I'm feeling bombarded by, are these mine? Or can I just be like the screen and let that wind, that breeze blow through and I remain steady?
Oh, that's a beautiful analogy. I love that.
Yes. And that's the thing. Like, there's nothing wrong with our designs by any, like, they are gifts when we understand them and operate with them and allow them to be on our own behalf and understand that, oh, I don't need to get swept up in this wave of emotion. I might need to remove myself from the field because I'm feeling bombarded. But I can also know that my presence can actually be a very calming presence.
Yes.
That's my design.
Yep.
So what are the challenges? Yes, but what are the gifts?
That's one thing that my husband has said is that when we got together, I taught him how to stop and I made it okay to stop. He provides the push that I need sometimes. Now, it's only been, this kind of goes back to our meaningful menopause conversation and like getting in touch with self and coming into alignment with our truth and ourself and all of this, which is why I really wanted to do this episode. And that journey that women go on between like 38 and 42 specifically, like there's a big soul piece to your journey during those years. And as I've been on my wild ride during that spiritual awakening phase of my life, I think that is something that I finally have learned. And then, when you and I talked about my human design, I felt really opened my eyes to, oh, I am finally starting to have a level of discernment around this because, my teenager would come storming down the stairs in the morning and I instantly felt angry.
Yes.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, I wasn't angry when I woke up. I don't in my brain have anything that should make me feel angry, but I feel angry right now. And it took me time and a lot of work to be able to tell what was mine and what isn't mine, which has been such an incredible gift because I didn't realize how easily influenced I was by other people's emotions. And it's helped me to step forward and be a better partner. So this speaks to the gifts that you're talking about, right? Because now I look at my husband when he walks through the door, and if he's frustrated with something, maybe it's a situation with a child, maybe it's work related, maybe it's situational because he didn't get the gutters cleaned, whatever it is, when he walks through the door and I can feel the temperature in the room change.
Yes, absolutely.
I can ask him in a meaningful way now.
Yes. And it's interesting because particularly with the open emotional solar plexus, which is kind of sits here, and mine is also open as well, we can, if we're in touch with that openness, we can read a room. We can read the temperature of a room and kind of feel like even great enthusiasm and joy. I can also feel like I just need to go back to the wall here because it's just too much.
Yeah.
So again, it's knowing, okay. So if my partner, if he's kind of because he has a defined emotional solar plexus and some very intense channels and gates, hanging gates that come off of that emotional solar plexus. Oh, I know it's not mine. I know I don't have to get in that washing machine.
Yes. And it's really helpful because like this is where like some of that really critical internal chatter can start when you think there's something quote unquote wrong with you, or you're pushing too hard. And again, using myself as an example, when you push too hard and you feel that bitterness because you feel like you're doing all the things and you're propping up all the things and you're exhausted and you're still trying to soldier through and it's just too much. Like, I used to be really critical of myself, and we're locked into our head with that conversation. And when we're telling ourselves we're not enough, we're too much, it erodes our self-worth, there's something wrong with us, whatever, like we are locked in our head with that kind of chatter. And it is the root of so much disease.
Absolutely. And just talking about that head center, that's the other pressure point. And if it is open, as yours is, and I can say as mine is too, there's a lot of conditioning. Like if you're thinking like it's like how we should be, what we should. So there's lots of chatter going on up there because we're taking it all in and we're amplifying it. And what are the messages? And there's the pressure to have an answer, to have a solution, to remember, to have answers. And there's also like what the thoughts and ideas are of the culture that we're taking in about who we should be, what we should be doing. So it's can be really noisy up in there. And the gift, if you happen to have an open head, is we tend to be quite open-minded and can hold different perspectives at one time.
Oh, yes. I was always the peacemaker for that reason.
So again, the challenges,
Yes.
the grapples, and then the gifts. And, but understanding that I'm always going to have that pressure. You're always going to have that pressure. Same thing with the root. You're always going to have that pressure to do. And you might struggle with procrastination or, so again, are these thoughts mine? Is this mine to do? Are these emotions mine? Is this energy mine? And if you're talking about the spleen, which is the home of intuition and the immune system, it's the more primitive, it's probably the oldest of the centers. It's also a place of fear. So if you happen to have, I'm like, something going on there?
All I could do is laugh because I feel like she's like, oh, here, let's talk about all the things that are usually hot buttons for you and go. But that's why this is so magical at the same time. Because it really is this beautiful intersection of science and woo, because
It is.
you understand where some of this comes from, which gives you a completely different perspective on why certain things might trigger you, why certain things seem harder than they might for others around you. And that little comparison bug is nasty, insidious, particularly in women's circles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we're aware of our human design and the gifts and the places that we should be aware of so they don't become pitfalls.
Yes.
They don't have to
They don't
be.
have to be. And where is our wounding? Like there's also that initial wounding. So where is that childhood wounding, perhaps with any of those centers or those gates or whatever, or wherever there's the openness. And then through the wounding, it's like, okay, now this is mine, what was my memory of this, my most ancient memory of this? And you start to kind of work through it. Again, it's not who I am, it's what I have. And how can we be on our own behalf and be in alignment if we have a greater understanding of this particular operating system, whether it's Myers-Briggs or any of those people. I have never done an enneagram. And apparently people who understand that, there's some lovely complicity between the two of them. People keep coming around and saying, human design seems to be even more spot on, like it's more uncanny.
I agree, because I have some familiarity with the Enneagram
Yes.
and with human design. I'm an INFJ Myers-Briggs, excuse me, not human design.
Yes.
I'm an
Yeah.
INFJ.
Yeah.
So that intuitive feeling, sensing, like that totally tracks with my
Yeah.
human design, and why certain things like that burn me out. And for the Enneagram, I am a 2 with a strong 3 wing, which totally tracks with what you said about when things are working well, the feeling is success.
Yes.
That's the 3 wing.
Yes.
So yes, like you can see these things and how they line up, but the complexity of human design, which is why you definitely need a practitioner to
Yes,
work
you
through
do.
and have
You
a
do.
deeper dive into
Yeah.
you and those around you, and being able to understand the interplay of those around you. But we are intricate beings.
Mhm.
And this is where like I feel human design and like natal charts and astrology, because there is interplay there too.
Absolutely, because your human design happens to be, the 3 months before you were born, where were the planets, and the moment of your birth, time, place, hour, a huge impact on what this unique thumbprint is, if you wish.
Well, and all of it has a mathematical and science underpinning to it, right? So people look at astrology and go, oh, that's so woo. And it's like, well, but no, like we used to make medical decisions based on that.
Yeah.
But like we used to like really base a lot of things around, and this was obviously like pre-Gregorian calendar because
Yes.
the year began in March with Aries. But when we take a look at these things, like it provides us with a much more dynamic level of insight, because like our bodies, and this is where I feel like there's been some fracture with the traditional medical model, is like we are a sum of parts. You
Yeah.
go to a throat doctor for this thing, you go to somebody who will do your mammogram, but that's not going to be the same person that's going to talk to you about your uterus. That's not going to be the same person that's going to talk to you about your postpartum experience. You have to go to a lactation consultant if you're having a hard time to nurse, but that's not the person that delivered your kid. You are a
Yes.
sum of
Yes.
parts.
Yeah.
And holistic health, true holistic health in its raw, natural, beautiful form,
Yeah.
is the interplay of the physical, emotional, energetic, spiritual bodies.
Yes.
And that's why I really wanted to have Jo on the show, because I really believe the more I learn about human design, and again, I totally defer to you, my friend, as the expert, but like the more I learn about human design, the more not only do I feel like I have some really beautiful, deeper insights into myself, but it helps me to work in a more aligned way.
Yes.
And I always brought like cyclical living into my life as a TCM practitioner. Like what I'm doing is in relationship to the season outside my window, as well as the season inside my body and the season of my life.
Yes.
Right. So I've always seen myself as like cyclical living, taking those 3 layers into consideration. But I really feel like human design takes that a step further and gives you some really beautiful insight into how can I work in integrity
Yes.
with
Mm.
my gifts, with my body, to be able to hold space for places that I've maybe been socially conditioned that this is a weakness, but in fact, it can actually be a strength. And knowing that this makes me different than the majority of the room, all of a sudden, I'm not seeing this as a weakness anymore. I'm seeing it as a perspective that I can offer that others don't have.
Exactly.
And it's a very different frame.
Yeah.
And like that wounding that we come in with, right, that you were talking about, like for me, there was a very big self-worth and that feeling of enough
Yeah.
that are at the soul of me. And I feel like this is important to share because a lot of us have something along those lines. There are a lot of us that share that as a core wound. And then when we stack comparison and judgment and all of these other things, and on top of it, we've created the perfect cocktail for an autoimmune condition. And anybody who's been following the show, do you know that I have 2 autoimmune conditions? But I've been able to keep the symptoms of these things in check since I have gained this insight.
Yeah.
So, because it is a different way of understanding the beautiful alchemical experience that is you.
Exactly.
So, I could talk about this for hours because I think
know.
it's so fascinating and it is such a deep topic, but I wanted my listeners to be aware that there was this incredible gift that they could give themselves
Yes.
with a human design reading and to have a very different level of perspective on what makes them tick, how they move through the world, their gifts and places that could potentially be challenges, because then you have a lot more compassion for yourself.
Absolutely.
You have more insight into where you might have pitfalls that could make you sick. For me, it's pushing too much.
Yeah.
And not being able to take that step back and go, that is yours, this is mine, and that's okay.
It's okay. Yes. Absolutely. And in terms of, like, first of all, I'm not an expert. I am 2.5 years in of I do, but it is something that I live and breathe. Like, it is something that as an educator, as a coach, as somebody who's, interested in being a healer in different ways, it is something that has made so much sense to me. And so when I am with someone and it's a continual learning, like I continue to study, I continue to be with this cohort because it deepens and enriches my learning. So like I will have a session. So if somebody just wanted some coaching for menopause support, whatever, it's like I will start with their chart because it gives me a greater understanding of who is sitting in front of me and who am I working with. And then it opens up a whole field to them. And I don't do readings. It's an inquiry. And so it's like, I am in relationship with you and your chart. And I would love for you to also be in relationship with this chart that is a quantum roadmap. It's your operating system. And so it's very much, it's a conversation that we have as opposed to me just kind of really, I don't want to do an information dump.
Yeah.
It really is very much about, so how does this resonate? Does this resonate? What's going on? I'm curious about, you've told me about some challenges. Well, I can see where this might be looking at your chart. How does that land? What do you love and appreciate about yourself? I can see why. What's a big dream?
I love that.
Yeah, it's very like unpacking all of that.
I love that. So if people would love to go on this journey with you, Jo, how would you recommend that they get in touch with you?
Well, certainly they can get in touch with me through email, which is jovissercoach@gmail.com. Also, if they go to the Awakening, I've got to get this. It's called Awakening Through Human Design. That's all one word. Maybe we could put that in the podcast. awakeningthroughhumandesign.com. That will take you to that site. And if you look under practitioners, you'll see me.
Beautiful.
Consultants and practitioners, and I'm there too, but certainly get in touch with me through my email address.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom again with our audience, Jo. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm so grateful our paths crossed.
Yes.
And I will have in the show notes, we'll have the practitioner website information as well as Jo's email address. So thank you again so much for your time, Jo. And until next time, my friend.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Adrienne.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at MoonEssenceMe on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.